Okay. So, so Janelle and I started talking in October 2011. And then we emailed through November and things like that. And then at that time, Tim was still living out here out in Utah. And so I would fly from Texas to Utah, stay with Tim for a few days. Then I think he and I drove or flew together. Then we went from Utah to Minnesota. Um, and and so I thought, well, hey, Grand Junction's only a few hours from Utah. May as well meet this girl, right? Just give it a shot and see. And I had planned to see her before we went home for Christmas, but Tim and I got busy. It just didn't work out. And so I called her on December 17th, which was her birthday. Um, she had just gotten back from being out snowshoeing with her friends and family for her birthday. My very first thought was she has a very nice voice. Her voice just sounded nice. We talked for a bit. I said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm sorry I won't be able to make it out before Christmas, but I'd still love to see you afterwards. And she said, okay, cool, yeah, that's fine. Again, she later said, okay, I thought I'll never see this guy. He's just blowing me off, whatever like that. Went home for Christmas, came back to Utah, rented a car. I think that was the day I remember checking. I remember I was about to leave and I thought, oh, my fingernails are too long and I wanted to look nice, so I stopped at the Kmart and bought a nail clippers to trim my nails down. Drove the 3.5, drive from Provo to Grand Junction. I think I just sang to my iPod the whole way and had a really nice trip. And I still remember pulling off of I-7 onto 24 Road, turning down G Road. Um, I think I stopped either to text her, to let her know I was almost there or something. But I mean, I still remember that drive, which I now do every day. Just right into her house. I remember walking up. I still remember walking up the stairs, knocking on the door. I remember she opened, and I remember thinking, just the first moment I saw her, it was comfortable. It was easy. It was no stress. It wasn't like, because I've been on some blind dates where you're just you meet him and you can't even describe. There's just that initial whatever that's cool or weird, or I'm not sure. And it was just relaxing, I guess. It was, she seemed nice. She was easy. Her Chihuahua Nina was barking like crazy, and she had a little shot collar, or a little buzzer call. Nina, stop, stop, stop. And I'm just standing there, and Nina's like, what do I do? But we went out. We had lunch at the Rock Slide. And then her dad has a music store just down, a few stores down. So we went to the music store, said hi to her dad, met one or two of her brothers. Don't remember who, it was kind of a blur. We went down to Triple Play Records, just browsed a bit. It's something fun to do. We'll just chill downtown. Then we went back to her place. We just kind of hung out. I think we watched. Did we watch Pushing? We either watched Pushing Daisies or Community, maybe both. I can't remember. Both were great shows. Again, a good indicative of her taste in movies. But we just kind of hung out. All during my singlehoodness ship years in my 20s, I've been very, very reserved with girls. I was afraid, just nervous. Didn't want to think I was a creeper. So I'll go on 4 dates with a girl without putting my arm around her because how do I know? But you know what? I was trying to be a bit more bold and things like that, and I wasn't going to have a whole lot of time to see it. So I put my arm around her. I think I maybe even held her hand, but she didn't seem to mind. Whatever. But I do. The most important part was we were sitting there, and we were sitting on the floor, and so the couch behind us, and Nina, the crazy Chihuahua, who I've been told don't make eye contact with her and she'll be okay. Just don't make eye contact with her. She was on the couch and she started walking on me a little bit. And I remember, it may as well have been a tarantula on me. It's just just don't move, right? And I remember Janelle saying, Jeff, this is a really good sign. Okay, so the fact that Nina could be on me, Nina has a preternatural judge of personality, and if you're a crazy person, she will know it, And so the fact that Nina could be on was also some universal sign. Anyway. Drove back home that night. Um, I remember being back in Texas at some point talking with one of my friends. I remember she said, "Wow, so any sparks?" And no, there weren't any sparks. We didn't just click it off or have this amazing verbal banter or whatever like that. But it was nice. It was good. So that was that. I think I'm trying to, without giving a play-by-play of everything, visit her a few more times. Um, Again, at one point I was trying to be bold, so I think on our third visit out here, I remember I think my second visit, she sent me home with a bag of Palisade peaches, which I thought was just very kind. I bought these for you. That's very, very cool of you. On our third visit, I think we went up to the monument. She drove me around up there. Trying to be bold, I kissed her. And here's the important thing: the world didn't change. It wasn't, the most amazing thing ever. Oh my gosh! And over the course of our relationship, we I broke it off a couple times. Hey, I'm just not crazy for you. You're nice, but da 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 da. Da. But it was always comfortable being with Janelle. And maybe about a year or so ago, a good friend of mine, shared a pin with me on Pinterest on the rare moments I check my Pinterest account, and the quote was something like an old Buddhist proverb, which whatever, says I'm paraphrasing, it says, "Don't choose the person who makes you thrilled to be around, but choose the person who makes you feel totally calm and at ease," or something like that. And she said, "Is this true? Would you agree with this?" And I said, "Absolutely." Because previously I'd always gone after the girls who were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't stop thinking about you. You're the best thing ever." And those never worked out. And even if the girls probably had said yes, I've realized that, I was crazy about them because I had taken aspects of them that I like and projected that to make this perfect person who was far more than what that nice, normal girl probably was. And I would eventually realize that they weren't that. Or anyway, I realized, that feeling of, oh my gosh, you're so incredible. Wow, you're this and you're everything, is, if you're feeling that way, you're probably not seeing the true person. You're seeing only their best parts and presuming that every part of them is as good. With Janelle, I always felt like I saw her honestly, and just as important, I felt like that she saw me honestly. Sometimes I remember, so I worked on little silly independent movies in Utah. Independent movies make them sound like the Sundance films. They're not. They were movies that had Mormon characters so they could be sold to Mormon families. They weren't good movies. But we still have a premiere, right? And so I had to take a date to the premiere. And I remember getting worried, like, well, what if this girl thinks, oh my gosh, this guy makes movies and we'll be able to go to the Oscars, and worrying that this girl, again, this is all inside my own head, worrying that some girl might think, oh my gosh, Jeff's going to become some big, and I can be, and I didn't want someone, I'm just me. I don't want you to think I'm anything other than me. And so I knew that Janelle, I can't say how I knew, but I just knew that Janelle saw me as me. I knew that she saw my strengths, but I knew that she also saw all my flaws, and that she was okay with that. Anyway, we broke up a couple of times. There was one time we kind of like really broke up, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible, and I called the next day and I said, no, no, I can't, Chanel had a couple of friends who were telling her, this guy's, he's crazy, he's not worth your time, he doesn't know what he wants, let him go. But she had a couple of friends who said, no, I think he's a good guy, you should, give him a chance here. She came down to visit me in Texas a couple of times. I was hoping that, like, if we spent she would stay for like a week. I was hoping if we had like a week together, magic would happen, and I would be, oh my gosh. Never was, but like I said, it was always just nice to be with her. I got an internship out at Adobe in the spring of 2013, And at that point, she and I were just friends. But I said, "Hey, do you want to just come out and fly down to Texas and we can just drive out to California together?" And she said, "Yeah, that sounds great." And it was an awesome road trip because it was fun. We just left and we said, "I know we need to be in San Jose by this day." But otherwise, we would just drive as far as we wanted to that day. That day, we'd find a hotel, we'd stop. If we saw something interesting, we'd stop and check it out. One day, we were out driving through Texas, and my dad said, "Hey, Carlsbad Caverns is really cool." Well, that was 2 miles off the road, but let's do it. So we drove to Carlsbad Caverns. But I remember the first night, we were out just in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Western Texas is very much nowhere, Texas. And I just said, "Hey, I'm starting to get kind of tired." And so Janelle just whips out her iPad. She had cellular service on her iPad. She just starts looking for a hotel, calls up, "Hey, we're looking for a room." "Okay, you're busy." Without me saying anything, she just took that and did it and found us a room. And for some reason, this little town in Texas, every hotel room was filled. We had to stay at this like creepy little weird meth hotel. It actually has a very nice old lady running it, but it looked really sketchy. But that really impressed me. That she would just say, "Here's a situation how I can help. I'm going to help out," And that really stuck with me a lot. We did lots, we just had a great time. I remember at one point I texted my friend Mark and said, this almost feels like a honeymoon, except that I'm not in love with her, but we were just having fun and doing things, and it was really, really nice. But again, I wasn't looking at her and falling in love. It was just nice. And I'm not trying to whitewash this. I'm trying to keep it going on forever. At one point, I forget the details. I'm trying to be honest here, but like at some point, maybe I think I was trying to like, metaphorically reach my hand out, hoping to, trying to flirt with her a bit to see if she'd like flirt back. We could have this great, witty 1940s banter or something like that. And then she wasn't flirting how I wanted her to flirt, and so then I pulled back, and then she got hurt, and so there were some ups and downs on this trip. But to her credit, despite all of my mercurialness of being hot then cold, even though it hurt her feelings at times, she was still pretty stalwart. Which are really good things to look for. Anyway, we get to Adobe, or we get to San Jose. We go to the MA Giants concert that night. Spend a day in San Francisco. Had a great time. She leaves off to head back home and do her thing. Again, I'm skipping on a lot. I'm just major points here. While I'm out there in then also, so about a month later, it's the 4th of July, and my family had planned I'm going to be out there. Becky was in Washington. Tim was also in California, so we all met together in Oregon. My parents flew out. We rented the beach house and spent the week out there. And after about a day, I thought, maybe I thought Janelle was out here, She's fun to be with. And so she came out and was, and was in family photos and things like that. I remember I picked her up from the airport, and she hadn't met my family yet. And we were touring, I think, the Tillamook Cheese Factory or something like that. And we came in and, hi, and my mom pulled me aside for a second. She said, "Jeff, she is wonderful. I want you to marry her," or something like that. Just right away, my mom just thought she was fantastic. And it was great. Janelle just fit in with the family. I mean, it was like she'd always been there. We had a great time together. Weekends, she goes back home. I go back to San Jose. But I wasn't in love with Janelle, and we weren't really together. And so, long story short, I met another girl online out there. So I'm like, hey, new crop of people on eHarmony, right? Met another girl who was about the exact opposite of Janelle. Very brash, very, very bold. She was very fun because she was very big personality, and she wanted to be an actress, and she also just very blah blah. Blah. And so that energy, just that outgoingness was very fun. But it's like eating frosting. It's really fun, but after a while you're like, it's just not for me. We had a great time. But I always, part of it too was that, again, throughout my 20s, I've been so cautious. I was afraid that if I started dating some girl, she want to get married, and I had to, and I just, I went from 0 to 60 in my mind before as Becky once put, she said, Jeff, I think you and I have dated a lot of people in our minds. And so I kind of thought, I just want a summer girlfriend. But this girl started liking me more and more and more. And I'm thinking like, no, you're not really a good fit for me. And I, and even in my mind, like in this weird way, I kind of knew I was going to marry Janelle. Like she just seemed like the right choice. And so I'm just kind of thinking, but this other girl, again, she was, there was lots of kind of fun things about her. And so the day, but I just kind of figured, what, my internship's going to end, we'll break up, and that'll be it. And I can have one of those, I can have a self-contained relationship. Because I've always been afraid that it just, whatever. But like the day I was going home, I think I just told this girl, I was like, hey, why don't you come in with me? And she's like, that'd be the best. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I need to get away from you. I was whatever. And I'm saying nothing. She was a great girl. And she and I had a lot of fun too. But she was not the right girl for me. And I remember even like about the first half day in the car, I'm thinking like, what have I done? She's driving me nuts. Because I don't like people. She was very much type A and go with this, and I'm like, be quiet, leave me alone. Let me just think about things. Whereas Janelle and I just got along together. But me and this girl, we stopped along Utah on the way because I wanted to see my friends and whatever. And I remember, and so we met up with all my friends. I think they were all kind of quietly like, really, Jeff? Huh? Interesting choice. Okay, whatever. None of them were like, Jeff, she's fantastic. They're all like, oh, sure. I mean, if you like her, man, that's cool. Anyway, she and I broke up about a month later. I was just kind of like, she kept, we should get together for Christmas. I'm like, I can't do this. And we broke up. But at the same time, I kind of broke up with Janelle too. I kind of told her, hey, I think, this isn't, I don't think you're the one either. I broke up with her. I broke up with you too. The next day, I went to a friend's wedding. It was like 3 hours away. And the whole way I'm driving there, I'm just thinking like, there's something missing right here. Like I just miss Janelle. Like, again, Janelle's not going to be out there, the lead on the stage, drawing the spotlight, But for life, for everything, I'm like, life was just it fit. Life was better with her. And I just remember driving that whole way down there and back, and I'm like, I just wish Janelle was here to share this with. I came home that evening, and my roommate was watching a production of Stephen Sondheim's Company on TV. There was like a PBS version they recorded with Neil Patrick Harris starring in it. And I'd actually been a part of Company. I had an internship in a college theater when I was in high school, and they did Company, but I didn't really pay attention to it because I wasn't in that one actually, but I was part of the crew. But there's a part where the main character says, so it's about like this guy who's single and he's got all these like married friends, and and it's kind of looking at what it's like to be, trying to find that. Anyway, it's about relationships and whatnot. But there is a song where he says something along the lines of like, I need to find a Jenny kind of Sarah, or something along those lines. And that really hit me. Because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I want this like Franken girl. I want your strengths and your strengths and your strengths and put them all together. That's what the girl I want. Well, obviously that doesn't exist because that's 3 different people you're trying to make right there. And people are or individual units. And that made me realize, I'm like, I'm not going to find a Janelle plus her plus her plus her. That doesn't exist. And I'm like, and the thing is, Janelle's the best to be with. It's comfortable. And I know it's cool to talk about being out of your comfort zones, but your marriage should be a comfort zone, I think. Um, so I went home. So that was in October, end of October, I think. And I went home to my parents' new house. I'll tell you something else. So we had that Oregon Beach house thing that July. While my parents were out there, they went down to visit my mom's sister in Medford, Oregon, looked at some houses, and before I was back from my internship, they had sold our house in Minnesota and moved to Medford, which shocked all of us kids greatly. And I remember I told like the girl that I was like dating out in California, she's like, "Oh, okay, whatever," and just like left for work. I told Janelle, and Janelle was just, yeah, I texted Janelle, and she was just like so empathetic, and man, that's so hard. And I remember she even sent me a clip from Muppets Take Manhattan where there's some song like "It's Sad to Say Goodbye" or something like that, and it just showed that she got things and she cared. So while I was out with my parents, I was just thinking, and again, I always thought like, it would be this suddenly like, like in the movie, I hate saying that, like, "Oh my gosh, I love you," and but I was still nervous. I was still, because you can overthink things, and the realism is that, even if you're making the best choice, that still means I don't get, the fun things with that girl. If it's Janelle is a great person, but she's not everything. She's imperfect. She's human. She's real. And so it was still, well, I liked that. I can't even think of anything now, but it was like, oh, maybe this other girl was a singer or something. I can't even, there was things I liked that she had that and Janelle doesn't have that. And so I was, but I also still knew, I'm like, but I want to be with Janelle. And so I called her up. I texted her one night and I said, "Hey, can I call you?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I think she later said she thought it was just like, did you just say I had a question? But I was kind of like, I just talked to her and I miss you, and I'm again, this is probably the fifth time I've done this for her, but I was like, look, I'm really, and something along those lines. And she's like, well, I don't know. Let me think. So I called her every night and things like that. And again, I wish it was more straight open, but even then I was still like, I think I want to do this. I don't, I wasn't, and I'm saying that only because I know I made the right decision, but at the time I wasn't sure if it was. It wasn't like absolutely. It wasn't like anyway. And so December 2013, I flew out here, spent Christmas with her family. Then we drove out to Oregon, spent Christmas with my family, and we spent every Christmas together since. Is the short end of that. So yeah. But I guess I just will say that even when I got engaged, I was still really nervous because, it was scary, and it was just, and even while I was engaged, I was often nervous about, well, what about this and what about that, and I don't, and maybe and shouldn't it be more like this? But since the day we've been married, I've never regretted it, never second thought it, never remote. This is cliche, and I fear that some people use it because they're supposed to say it, but for me, I mean it sincerely and truly when I say I love her more and more every single day. And that's not something I just so I can write on the. I mean it entirely, and I've just never. I just know it was it was the right thing. It was the best thing. It's the best choice because when, and this is something I actually told her back before when we weren't dating. I said, Chanel, you're the kind of person that when we've got kids crying at 2 a.m, you're the one I want to be with me. We've been through exactly that even a couple of weeks ago. She's not as snappy a dresser as some other girls I dated, things like that. But when you're doing your taxes and things aren't working out, or when you're trying to figure out budgets, or when life gets real, life gets hard. She's absolutely the person I want in my corner. It's and even now as I look at her playing with Lane, you're like, this is too idyllic. This is too perfect. I know it's real, but I'm going to enjoy it. I love her and I'm happy I married her. That's all I can really say, I guess.
Let's talk about motherhood. How has Lane changed your life?
Um, Growing up, like in my 20s, I remember I was at BYU. I remember I was worried. Getting married seemed kind of scary or hard, or what if this or what if that or whatever. But I remember even telling a friend, I said, but I've never worried about being a dad, and I think it's because I had such a good dad, and so it just made it seemed easy. And in 2016, end of October, I was out to finish my master's degree. One of the requirements was to present my work at a conference. So I was out at a art conference in Virginia, just gone for one night, presenting my work. And when I came back home, Janelle picked me up from the airport, and I'm just talking about this, about that. And I remember I went into the bathroom to brush my teeth or something, and sitting on the counter was a bottle of Dad's root beer, a little balloon saying congratulations. And she had, again, we're both Arrested Development fans, she had a little photo of Buster kind of pointing at Michael, and it said, "You're going to be a pop-pop." And this 100% caught me off guard. We decided we want to have a kid, or have a baby, and we had made those changes, but you never know. Is that going to take a year? Can we, what? It just caught me off guard. I just stopped, and I remember Janelle just kind of looked in and just had this smile, and it was this like special, peaceful, good feeling. And like I said, I had some nervousness about getting married. I've never once had the, oh crap, I'm going to be a dad. It's just cool. Janelle was great about it. She was good about getting things taken care of, and getting this and that. A little. It was. It's funny. One thing that's interesting about being a parent is that as a parent, in many ways, you've known the child longer than they've known themselves. You were there before they were. I don't remember the first several years of my life. Even that, I remember the first second of Lane's life. I remember his first night. I remember the very first night. Actually, it's a long labor. We hadn't slept for a couple of nights. I actually got my Tdap or Tdip or Dip-Tet or whatever shot like the day before Janelle was supposed to be induced, or 2 days before, and I got horribly sick the day before she was going to be induced. Like, I could not get out of bed. And I'm like, I have to spend the second, but thankfully the next day I was feeling good enough to go to the hospital. But we hadn't slept for a couple nights. We were tired. I'm holding him the very first night. Janelle, it's like 11:45 or midnight. Visitors have all finally gone away. We're actually going to get some sleep for once. Janelle goes into the bathroom, and he goes from wah, wah, to wah. I have never seen him more, and I'm like, what just happened? You could not expect such rage in a little baby like that. So that's one of my first experiences with Lane. But at first it was a bit hard. Only I remember after a couple of days, just remember thinking, my life would be, I was, Janelle and I were both in our late 30s, and we're both pretty grounded people, I think. So we didn't have any false ideas of what parenthood would be like. I think I can, even after 9 months now, I think I can safely say I think we had a fair good enough idea of what we were getting ourselves into. We had seen Friends, so I knew it wasn't. Again I and I really don't feel like there were any like, wow, this is more than I was expecting. No, it's what I was expecting, but it was still hard. And I remember just thinking, remember saying like, I just wonder like, can we, will I ever be able to like watch a movie again, or just because and that has been absolutely the hardest part. And maybe this is what parenting is, but just like the fact that they eat up all of your spare time just dissipates immediately. And that's just been what's difficult. And again, as I'm saying this, in 1 week, Lane will be 9 months. Um, it gets easier. He gets a little, he can kind of, you know, he's on the floor. I can read on my iPad for a bit. Okay, he's still alive. Things like that. He's mobile now, so it gets a bit trickier. But at first, it was hard, also because he was a total sociopath. We do all these things for him. His eye for the first couple weeks, his eyes aren't really focusing on anything. He can't respond to you really. So you can't make him laugh. He just stares off at things, and you feed him more. He doesn't look at you. He doesn't smile, and so that was kind of difficult a bit. I mean, again, not that I was like I can't stand this thing, but I'm like, you're not. What's so great about you? I mean, I'm trying here, man. But Janelle loved him from the start. Loved him, loved him, loved him, loved him, loved him. As she was pregnant, she would often say, she's like, Jeff, I don't know if I'm going to be a very good mom. I'm worried about this. She's like, I mean, she said several times, she's like, Jeff, you're going to be a much better parent than I am. And I'm thinking like, well, I was a pretty cool uncle, so I might be. But, but from day one, I mean, I honestly can remember one time at like 4 in the morning where she said like, oh, that kid. And that's the maddest I've ever seen her. She has just been, you know, oh, I love him. And, he's napping. Oh, I miss him. Aren't you glad we get, 45 minutes of quiet? But I miss him. Jeez. She loves him, loves him, loves him, which is that it made it easier for me to just, and that's, in a way, that's how Janelle is. That's why marriages with her are so good too. Janelle does not pick fights. She doesn't hold grudges. She doesn't pick fights. She doesn't, you know, poke at the sore spot. She lets, and so I think of myself as a rather non-combative, non-contentious person, but she makes it all the easier to be that way. But as Lane has gotten older, and this is actually advice a friend of mine at church gave me. He said, man, just to let you know, it's a little hard at first, but you'll get to like him more and more as they go on, and that's been very much the case. I find myself more and more and more just saying, I love this little guy. I love him so much. We're so lucky. Lane really has quite the personality too. He's kind of a smart aleck, I think, as much as a baby can be. He's not easily amused. He won't. You got to earn it from him. He'll smile. He'll laugh. But you're not getting that for free. Just today, I was even going through trying to clean up my computer, and I found some photo. I think from the day he was born or something like that, or maybe it was a few days. But even this little, day-old infant has this look kind of like on his face, and that's still like he's like, okay, whatever. Very chill guy. He's very observant. He just loves to look and observe and watch and learn things. Loves to check things out. This morning I took him to the grocery store. Didn't say a word, just loves looking. That's cool. That's cool. Oh, that's neat. I was carrying him in my arms, and he was like this the whole time. Like we look in our shadows. He's like, that's the coolest thing ever. Just loves it. But he's great. He's wonderful. It's made me just. It's funny. I think about these things a lot of the time. Now I can't think of it now that you're asking me to say it. But just how it does. Again, it's cliche. But it does. It makes you get what your parents were going through, and you're like, oh, I get it now. I mean, you get how much they love you. You get, oh, you really would do anything for me. It's interesting too. Again, I guess I'm fascinated about the part that my mom, my dad, be like, oh, I still remember the day you were born. I could hold you, And it's not that I ever doubted that, but because, that may as well have been 100 years ago because I don't remember it. And it just seems so far, it's almost this abstract idea of when I was a baby. Sure, whatever. But when I'm 80 years old, hopefully, as long as my memory is good, I will still remember the day Layden was born. I still remember. I'm not going to forget that. And so it's weird to think, oh yeah, my parents look at me the same way. Um, it's fun. Like I said, I actually think about these things a lot. I just can't think of a lot of these little ideas I have right now. But there's also that I don't want to say fear, but that parental caution. I mean, I remember the first day he was born. You're just kind of like waiting. Okay, when's the doctor going to say, "Oh, we need to take him. We just noticed that we need to do some more tests," or when is something that's going to change and is Chanel going to hemorrhage? Is something just something horrible just going to happen? And nothing did. I remember kind of being like, because the idea of a healthy baby seems so, of course, right? Um, it just seems so like, well, yeah, it's a healthy baby, duh. But I felt so grateful, like when the nurses said, no, yeah, or the doctors said, yeah, we did all the tests, everything's normal. You sure? But then you take him home, and I remember for a while, at first, he'd be napping, and Chanel's like, is he okay? He's napping, he's fine. And oddly enough, as it's been longer, now I'm like that. I mean, you wake up, he slept all night. Oh my gosh, is he okay? You gotta go. I mean, even just yesterday, I think I went into his room. He's been asleep for a while. Go in there. You don't want to wake him up if he's sleeping. Touch his face. Well, man, she's kind of cold. Maybe the room's just cold. What if he? Okay, okay, he's breathing. Okay, and you realize that will probably be the rest of my life. Oh my gosh, he's a teenager. He's driving, because, as a teenager, you're like, Mom, I'm fine. I'm just out at my friend's house. But your parents are like, what if you're dead? What if this? What if you're doing all these things? What if you're doing drugs? What if you got involved in the drug cartel? I don't even know. And so it's weird that I now have those same kind of thoughts. I hope that I can, find that balance between realizing that, yes, the world is a scary place, but my son's probably safe and he'll be okay and whatever. But you always kind of live on that knife's edge a bit. What else I think is interesting? It's really about the time that I finished grad school. I kind of was thinking how I loved school. I loved high school. I have fond memories of it anyway. Maybe I hated it at the time, but I have fond memories of it. But it was great because I could do band and choir and this yearbook and knowledge bowl and theater and all these different things. And I could letter in those things and I could get the lead role. And there were all these things I could do. And plus, every year you're in first grade, now you're in second grade, now you're in third grade, and then you're in college, and then you're, a senior in college, and then you're doing it, and there's all these levels of progression. Then after college, maybe you do grad school, but otherwise, there's a kind of this big amorphous block. Well, now you're just working. And I guess you could say, well, then but you could move up in your job and this and that. But in some respect, to me, it just kind of felt like, and then you just get a job and you do your best at your job. You come home every day, and life's kind of the same in a lot of ways. Um, Again, I've got a much more exciting job than a lot of people do, but it's kind of just still feels go to work, do some cool things, come home, watch a movie, go to bed, go home. I mean, it kind of just feels samey. When do I move on to grade 33 or whatever like that? And I remember just thinking, like, it's kind of unfortunate that the first part of life is so, progressive oriented, then it just kind of becomes this. Then I had a kid. And I'm embarrassed at how obvious the answer is, duh, that's it. Because now I grew up with him. Um, I used to imagine, I didn't want to be one of those like overly sentimental parents, so I imagined making jokes on Facebook like, man, my son, can't even sit up yet. What a moron, or how incompetent he is. Just try to be funny. Of course I love him. But I can't even do that. Instead, I'm like, you're sitting up, that's awesome. Because as a parent, you know, whether it's just because you're with them from the very start or because he's part of me, but their victories very much are your victories. And so I don't, I talk about him and very much think he's so big, he's so mature. The kid's 9 months old. He still sits and rolls over, falls over sometimes just from sitting. He cannot stand up. He cannot talk. He cannot. It's. I mean, objectively, humans are the most inept creatures in the animal kingdom. Any other animal at 9 months could pretty much kill you if it want or whatever. Any predator. Lane is still just a pink ball of person, pretty much. And yet he's the coolest thing, and I get excited with everything he does. And I love watching his little baby brain. I love watching him watch, there's his little TV show. I don't want to raise my child on TV, but we got to put him on to distract him when he's eating food. And to watch him, like, this song comes on, this thing happens, and he smiles and laughs, and I wonder, what is going on inside your little baby brain that makes you think, that is so freaking cool? I want to understand him. I want to know. He started crawling about 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ago. And now, I remember one of the first nights I came home, and he's also obsessed with Nina. The Chihuahua hates, or does not care for him, and all his life, if he can touch the Chihuahua, he will be the happiest person in the world. So one night I came home, and Nina's always right there to greet me, just And I came home, and Lane started crawling towards, and I thought he was going to Nina, because there was Nina. Came right to Daddy. And now when I come home, and he's getting faster, I come home and just zoom right to Daddy. How cool is that? So no, it's wonderful. There's these, what if he grows up and what if he hates his parents, and things like that, or what if he becomes some bad kid, and I find myself thinking, as a baby he was so happy, he loved us, and now he's off in a gang, or maybe not even. What if he just becomes like some teenage kid who says, I hate my parents, they're dorks, and they're losers, and I don't want to. What if that happens, or what if something worse happens to him, or things like that, or I mean, but I have to just kind of set those aside, and it's a joy, and you go and you wake up every morning, he's just like, yeah, and it's another day. How great is this? And everything's exciting, and it's just wonderful.
Okay, so let's imagine Lane is 20 years old and he's watching this now.
Yeah,
Or he's an adult. He's
yeah.
a man. What do you want to say to them?
What I want to say doesn't sound cliche. I don't know that I can say anything that hasn't been said a million times by every other parent. I thought I would be a little more. I mean, how do you say I love you? How do you say I love you without it sounding like the same thing I told him 100 times a day? Um, I remember in my 20s. My 20s were hard in some ways because I thought I was 20. I thought I had to have life all figured out by then. But I still felt unstable in my job and things like that. Um, Growing up, especially it seemed like high school, mission years, and early college. I was kind of blazing the way for Becky and Tim. I was, and I felt like I was doing some cool things, and I felt like I was and I don't say this arrogantly at all, but I felt like I was a cool big brother to look up to. I want to be like Jeff. He's doing things right. And by the end of my 20s, I felt like Becky and Tim both surpassed me. They had both, I felt like, had done cooler, better, more successful, more, or just more things than I have. And I kind of felt like I just kind of fallen back a bit. And at times I just felt like I was I had a pretty mediocre, boring, unremarkable life. But Dad would still tell me he was proud of me. And he would say, Jeff, he's like, you haven't made any dumb choices or things, you're a good person, but whatever. And so I guess, talking to adult Lane, and again, there's no way to not to make this sound cliche, but I love him no matter what. And whether he's in prison right now or not, I hope not, but if he is, it really doesn't make a difference, you know? Um, and it's funny because on the one hand, I felt like I had a really good life, and I felt like I tried hard and did cool things. Again, I didn't do it. The older I get, the more. When even maybe 10, 15 years ago, I thought I was kind of like, kind of like Ferris Bueller. I'm a pretty cool guy, and it seems like everybody likes me, and I can kind of do all this cool stuff. Like by now, the older I get, the more I'm like, I'm a pretty normal guy. I think I'm just me, and that's fine. I'm not. I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm like, you know, there's things more important than having great things on your resume. I think I'm a nice guy. I'm a good guy, and I think that's more important. Trustworthy. I think that's more important than having an Oscar or having ASC after my name. Um, and so I guess with Lane, on the one hand, I hope that he does cool things and things that are interesting. I hope he does things that are interesting to him. Um, but on the one hand, it really doesn't. I really don't care. I how do you define unconditional love? How do you define that? Watching that little baby crawl around the floor. Watching him laugh. I mean, if adult Lane, if he's having a hard time, I hope I'm there to hug him still and tell him it's okay. And of everything that he's done, I hope he knows that I'm proud of him. And even if he doesn't feel proud of himself, really doesn't matter. I'm still proud of him, I still love him. That I will never, that every day how do you even I can't even say anything. He's so magical. He's every little thing he does gets us excited. The first time I saw him pick up his own pacifier and put it back in his mouth, because that's what they do. He could do that. That was so cool because this little guy knows how to do that. Then when he gets excited over standing up, when he comes in the morning and he just does this because he's happy to see Dad. Whatever your life is like, I really don't care. I love you. And I don't know how to describe that. And I'm very grateful, I guess. I never, ever, ever worried that my parents didn't love me. Um, and they always told me they loved me, and that kind of just became like, cool, whatever. Yeah, I get that. That's like saying, Jeff, here's some air. Great, I don't need air. I know you love me, so you don't need to tell me you love me. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I could give a whole list of like life lessons I want them to know or things like that. There's personal peace is far more important than any sort of accomplishment or whatnot. But I'll make my in case I'm dead tape later or something. I don't. He's. I'll tell you what I want him to know. I want him to know how much his mom loves him. I can't even like begin to describe it. My gosh. Janelle just loses her mind over how wonderful he is. Nothing. I mean, there's no words. But man, kid, your mom loves you so much. She just loses her mind over how great he is. Yeah.
Well, that's all I have.
I expect us to talk for about an hour. So I thought we talked about an hour. So thank you.
No, I knew it was gonna run longer. There's always stuff that
Yeah,
you're like, no, I have to get this, I have to get this. Okay, I wanna make sure that we don't miss anything that you're like, we talked about that. Living in Iowa, we did not talk about Disneyland, Yellowstone,
that's fine.
school we talked about, when we grew up. We didn't talk about smoking.
That's okay. I think Becky talked about Moke.
Huh?
Becky talked about Moke.
Um,
Besides now, I'm now like red swollen eyes for it. Like,
oh yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything.
okay.
Wish you could do differently,
Um, let me. How much time do we have left in the card there?
11 minutes?
Okay, let me hit a couple of those things real quick. I want to talk about this Disneyland thing actually. Um, I guess speaking of early memories, uh, it's funny. I guess it's weird because you wonder how much of my memories are that I did I construct the memory because I saw the videotape of that versus how much I actually remember of it. But I will say it was pretty cool. Yeah, Becky and I came home from school one day, and Mom and Dad said, "We're taking you guys to Disneyland." We're like, "Wait, what?" Like, yeah, we're going like right now. And I remember just how dang cool that was. And years later, Mom said, "Oh, I wish I would have told you guys like a month or in advance. So you could get excited about it." I'm like, "Are you kidding? Having your parents just say we're going to Disneyland right now for a week is the coolest thing. That surprise is way better." But I remember even then just trying to show how smart I was. We went to never seen the ocean before. Even now, almost seeing the ocean is still. I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, about as far from anywhere in North America as you are from the ocean. So even now, it's still kind of cool. But that was the first time we saw the ocean, I think. And I remember, trying just to be smart and learn things. And I go out and like the wave would come and hit me, and I was trying to tell Dad, but I remember thinking that I thought like I said, "Dad, did you see the tide get me?" Because I thought that was the tide. Like waves were the wrong term. Like that was actually the wave was the right term. The tide is different. But I remember saying, "Dad, did you see me get hit by that tide?" Just trying to be smart down there. I thought it was cool. I came back with a little Pirates of the Caribbean hat that was very exciting. Our Yellowstone trip we did, I think, just a year later. We did a couple of like big, like large, like we'd all pile into like the minivan. I feel bad. Like somehow, I'm not sure it was that trip, like a trip we did two later, but like I think Mom ended up in the back seats, kind of watching Becky and Tim, and so like me and Dad up in front. I'm like, this is great. Me and Dad getting talking. Mom's fine. I look back now, like it's gonna be rough being watching two young kids like on a road trip all day long. So once again, Mom, we didn't appreciate what you did, but thank you. But not only had we, okay, so Disneyland was out of the ocean. Also, Minnesota is as flat as this floor. It's flat, 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 flat. And so I remember we were driving probably like through western North Dakota, maybe South Dakota, maybe Montana, maybe Wyoming. But there were like these like hills. I mean, hills. And I remember this kid's like, "Wow, look at that mountain! Look at that mountain!" And after I met my mom's like, "Kids, those aren't really mountains. They're huge. What are you talking about?" Then we went to the Grand Teton National Park, and I just remember being like, "Whoa!" And it's again, talk about scale in your child's mind. In my mind, there are these like thousands upon thousands. I mean, it's like Lord of the Rings, like I just remember them being humongous. I look at them now. I mean, they're still beautiful to look at. Even when I drive to Denver, even now, I'm still just fascinated by them. But just as a kid, and that's what I wish I could almost like experience that again, to see mountains for the first time. And it's kind of like when I was in the MTC, and these guys from Australia never seen snow before. You're like, you've never seen snow. Again, to me, I grew up with snow. But that was the first time we saw mountains. To see the Rocky Mountains or anything like that blew our minds. I also remember I spent a lot of time on that trip. There was a Game Boy game called Final Fantasy Legend 2, and that really kept me going through most of the trip. That was a lot of fun. Regarding Moke, so we had a cat. My mom had a cat named Jesus, which I never realized until years later was like Jesus in Spanish. Like that's a weird name for a cat. But I thought it was like Heysu. But Jesus was kind of grumpy, although as I've realized too that most cats don't like 3-year-olds, so I can't blame Jesus too much for that. But Jesus passed away, and then we had Tasha, and she was great. And then I think Becky especially wanted a cat. And so for her 8th birthday, I think, a family in our at church had kitten. Their cat had kittens, and we had looked at them and thought they were cool. And so for Becky's 8th birthday, Mom gave her this little box, and after all of the presents, it's like a shoe box, and she opened it up, and inside was Smokey. And Becky, even on tape, says, "Oh, Smokey," and then for a few days afterwards, well, should we name him Smokey? Because Smokey sounds like smoking, and that's not good. And so maybe, but then we realized that she said Smokey on the tape, and so we probably better call him Smokey. I think that was actually the reasoning for it. But Moke was, I can't really choose between Tasha and Smokey, but I loved Moke. He had a rough life. He had a good life too, but he had to get beat up by all the kids. And I remember also, even at 8 years old, my memory of it is that Becky was determined that Tasha and Smokey would get along. And so I remember her after school every day, she would go out in the garage with Tasha and Smokey and make them spend time until they got along. I mean, that was Becky. She has a goal, and she's going to do it, and she will work every step it takes to do it. That was pretty remarkable of her. But we loved Moke. He was great to watch movies with. He'd just curl up with you. We never. I think he would probably roll over in his grave a bit if he saw how much more freedom the other cats around the house got now. Moke wasn't allowed on the table, wasn't really allowed outside except for very rare moments. Whereas now, Mom's cat pretty much owns the house, goes outside whenever he wants, comes back in at 4 in the morning if he wants, and Mom will let him in. So Moke had a bit more of a strict home environment, but we sure did love Moke. Loved him so very much. And yeah, he and Tasha would play. Tasha was, many times his size, but they were friends. Tasha never hurt him. They played together, and Moke knew that too. And really, really, really loved Moke. So yeah.
What was hard about growing up, would you say?
It really, I'm sure at the time I could have listed lots of things that were hard, but looking back, I can't say a whole lot that was hard. Um, like I said, I wish I had been a little more of a kinder big brother to Becky and Tim. Um, but really, there's no other place I would have wanted to grow up in Minnesota, in Moorhead. Um, older I get, the more I'm just like so grateful for my parents. Um, we had a great house, nice little quiet street, went to good schools. Um, I'm really grateful we grew up in the church. Really, I remember in high school or junior high, my best friend he said, "Jeff, I always feel like you've had a really good, you have, what do you say? You have a really good idea of where you're at in life. Most people couldn't find that with a map." Um, I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm just being me. But I think church gave me a really good direction and focus. And um, even when things are hard, it kind of it gave me this framework in which to kind of just, not that I was some Zen, but I don't know. Even the hard times weren't that hard because I had this good framework in which to kind of balance things in.
I think that's everything on the list.
Sounds good to me.
We have 3 minutes left. Are there any closing statements you'd like to make, summing up your childhood or anything?
Um, I wish I could go back and just look at everything again. I want a virtual reality VCR. Um, I want to go back and I want to go to pick a video again and see. One more movie video. Remember here real quick. I just remember, because I remember my parents would still, we go out and rent videos. I remember, in Nevada there was a little video store called Adventureland Video. I remember walking in. There's a poster on the wall of some movie. I now know that movie was a movie called Prizzy's Honor. So I never forgot the image. It's had Jack Nicholson and Angelica Houston in it. But I remember just like I remember going with the store to mom and dad and like looking at all the VHS and just as a kid there I remember these like horror movies. I remember like some movie with like a girl like an axe on her chest on the cover or something like that, and you're like, ooh, there's I'll get this one. There are these stupid movies, but you're like, this looks fun. And as a kid, you don't really have that. You're not that refined on what's good and what's bad. You just kind of watch crap. But I want to go back. I want to see my childhood again because it was. I just want to appreciate all that I couldn't appreciate before. I want to take in all the details. I want to tell myself to buy the magic cards I didn't buy back then because they're worth hundreds of dollars now. I want to go driving around Moorhead in the summer of 1995 after going to play rehearsal at Gooseberry Park and listening to Beck on the radio. I want to. It was so good that I want to go back and just see it again and just. What else is cool too is when I was at home for the last Christmas we had in Moorhead was 2012. I would sometimes get in fights at Christmas because I want things to be better than they probably needed to be, and so I would sometimes ruin Christmases. But Christmas 2012, Tim and Lindsay were home, Becky and Brady and the kids were home. We were all home as our last Christmas in Moorhead, and it was just about perfect. And during that time, I had bought Mom a scanner, and I was scanning all of our old photos to digitize them. And I saw a photo of us at Disneyland from 1998, and it was so cool to. There were hard times. Teenage years are hard. Having kids is hard. But it was cool to look at that family from 1998 and to see the family in 2012 and know that you guys make it, and there's going to be so many great times in between there. And I'm just grateful for all the whole dang thing. I think that's the end.
Zeroing.
Cool.
So I just.
Yeah.